allowed smoking breaks at work? Or, if you're taking too many of them, do you think that should be docked from your pay? It's an idea that's being floated in Spain. They're actually considering it. They're saying, you should clock in like a factory, clock out again. So any time you spend outside the office, we don't pay you for that time. And then if you want to take loads of cigarette breaks, well, that's quite frankly, that's on you, because it's your time, no problem. Do you think that would be a sensible and fair way to progress here? I wonder whether this would change your mind, actually. New figures have come out, and they claim that Kent businesses lose more than £200 million a year just from staff nipping out for a cigarette. It's worth saying, and this is with my cynical hat on here, okay, but it is worth saying that actually these stats have been issued by a vaping firm and an anti-smoking campaign. Okay, just chew over that while you decide what you think about it. Meantime, let's talk to Kevin Standishday from Unison, a Northants branch secretary. Thank you for joining us this morning. I mean, do you think that you should have to kind of clock in and clock out like this idea that's being floated in Spain? I mean, it's quite cynical, I suppose, in itself, isn't it? But, if it's all about the bottom line, does it make sense?
Yes and no. I mean, I can understand why people will be worried about loss of productivity, but my view is if you're a smoker, it is an addiction. You have to feed that addiction. If you're spending more time sitting around at your desk worrying about when you might get your next break, etc., that creates less productivity in my view, and it's also about well-being of your employees by being trusted, isn't it, to, not really take the mick, not to take too many breaks. I mean, of course, if you're a good manager, you should be managing your team. You should be facilitating that, and you should, be able to manage your staff effectively, shouldn't you?
Because, Kevin, the word that keeps coming back this morning is fair. What staff want is it to be fair. And if you're sat at your desk and the person next to you is out, having 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, like for the whole of the day, the entirety of the day, I mean, people just feel a bit aggrieved, don't they? So as a manager, how do you sort of contend with that?
I think you sort of have a look at your whole staff team, really. I mean, my experience is I stopped smoking 6 years ago, but having worked in a sort of social services and prevention team environment, I would say most people are nipping out, having a cigarette, they're making a work phone call, they're having a work conversation with one of their colleagues. I wouldn't say people are actually stopping work that often to do that in that office environment. And also, you've got to bear in mind, a lot of people drink tea constantly during the day. I mean, I don't myself, but I work with a lot of
Guilty
colleagues.
as charged, yeah.
Same thing, really. And so they're off every hour making a cup of tea, or less than that sometimes,
But it's interesting in your area, so I mentioned that you're from Northants, right? Well, the council there actually banned staff popping out for unofficial smoking breaks, didn't they? Because they wanted to raise productivity in the office. So it has been done. How's that gone down?
Well, to start with, it started in September. We had a lot of calls from staff worried about it. We had one staff member who was monitored coming in and out on a swipe card and presented with all the times she'd been in and out of the office. But actually, she wasn't having a lunch break. And when we totted up the breaks she'd had, she actually had less than her entitlement for the day anyway, which was strange. We actually haven't had anybody disciplined for this. The rules were that you could go out on your lunch break, or you could split your lunch break into two 15-minute breaks during the day, and you could go out then, but you had to go far enough away that you weren't visible from the building.
We spoke to a leadership consultant earlier on, I don't know if you heard it, but Mark Manley was here, and he was saying, if you do stuff like that, essentially you're treating people like children, and then guess what? They act like children. So would you agree that these kind of moves are actually counterproductive?
Yeah, I would, yeah. And I'd also say that most staff are working and providing a lot of goodwill to the employer at the moment, especially in the public sector. People are working over their hours, they're doing over their job grade, etc., and everyone's stressed with not enough staff and not enough resources. So taking away something which is a bit of goodwill, really, it's a goodwill letting somebody just nip out for an unofficial break. I know they call it a fresh air break, but it's not really when you're smoking, is it?
Not exactly, no, a different sort of break.
Goodwill, isn't it? And it's got to be reciprocated, really, by the employer.
Yeah, well, I understand that actually David from Ash disagrees with you, because he's called up this morning. David, you think people should not be allowed to take fag breaks for free. Why?
Well, because I'm elderly. I'm speaking as a reformed smoker. I stopped smoking 50 years ago, and it is an addiction, and I feel very sorry for anybody who's a smoker who wants to give up and is finding it difficult. However, I do feel on behalf of the other staff that are working, perhaps a smoker should be allowed so much time in their working day for smoking, but then they shouldn't be paid for it because their colleagues are carrying on working.
That's the problem, isn't it? It's the imbalance. I mean, or maybe you would look at it through a different lens, David, the suggestion that Mark made earlier on. What if, rather than look at it through that end of the telescope, say, well, those people who are carrying on working, give them breaks as well? That work?
Well, I doubt whether many employers would agree with that principle.
Fair enough.
I think it's primitive that we make smokers stand out in the street in the rain because they've got to deal with their addiction. I mean, I used to work in the city and see people. It's primitive. But however, I don't think they can expect to be paid for time not worked.
Just simply not fair. Kevin, having heard that, that is a view of a lot of people. Well, how do you get round that? Because it's not going anywhere, that point of view, is it?
I don't know. I mean, I'd still go back to the amount of time other people spend making a cup of tea, whatever, standing around waiting for the kettle to boil. Do you know what I mean? Walking. I mean, you could say that takes 5 to 10 minutes an hour. And I wouldn't say smokers go out every hour. You also got to bear in mind most people work at a VDU screen, a computer screen. Most of the day in the modern environment, and the guidance says you should take 5 to 10 minutes break away from your screen a day.
Yeah,
every
I've
hour,
heard that.
Just to rest your eyes. So, if you did that, should you not be paid for that time as well because you're not productive? How far do you go with this?
Yeah, you can argue it both ways, can't you, Kevin? Good to talk to you. That's Kevin Standishday from Northants. He's a Unison branch secretary. I mentioned what they've done in Northamptonshire. I wonder whether you think that's a good idea, banning staff popping out for unofficial smoking breaks.